Welcome back to the Magnolia Shine podcast. I'm your host, Trellis Williams, alongside the one and only Blake Levine. Mondays and Thursdays, we bring you this show, and we're glad that you're joining with us now. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button to the Magnolia Shine podcast. We're moving up quick, and we want your help to continue that movement. Blake, we had a big upset week in high school football, week 9, and I'm excited to get into it. What were you thinking from this week?
Well, to be honest with you, at halftime of these games, for a second, I thought there was going to be even a lot more upsets. I mean,
Yeah, that's right.
Seminary was
I
up on
know.
Raleigh, and
I know.
I was like looking at these scores, like, is that correct? Did they print that right? Now Raleigh ended up winning, but Pearl and Petal was crazy. I mean, there was a lot going on.
There was. We're going to get into that right now. Start off with Vicksburg and Cleveland Central, which was a game that I picked Vicksburg to win. You picked Cleveland Central to win this game. Cleveland Central does win 34-10 over Vicksburg. Cleveland Central coming off the tough loss to Florence. They get back in the win column at home, beating the Gators. Blake, what'd you think about that? I know that you had Cleveland Central winning this game.
Yeah, I think Cleveland Central, again, still one of the best teams in the North. I know West Point's in a different class. I know they're going to be playing Lanier this week, and a little preview here. I'm going to take Cleveland Central against Lanier this week. So I think Lanier is playing well. I'm still impressed. I know they took a tough loss here recently, but any given week they can really show out, and I think they'll get up for the Lanier game. So still impressed with Cleveland Central. When it comes to Vicksburg, it's just not enough this year.
Yeah. I know what you mean on that one. So we got Brandon, Oak Grove. Okay. Listen, this was a big game because Lance Pogue just resigned from Brandon. Now they take it right to the road to take on Oak Grove. Oak Grove was sitting at 5-3 going into the ball game. Oak Grove beats Brandon, and they beat him 20-7. Brandon's still struggling to score the football, something that we have not seen from Brandon in years. The inability to score the football, and it showed once again. You picked Brandon to win this one. I picked Oak Grove. Oak Grove gets the win 20-7.
Yeah, I thought Brand was going to come out with a little more life, and obviously the offense is what it is. You can't change the offense overnight, right? I mean, I guess their athletes could have scored a bunch of points, but the reality is the offense was probably going to be very similar. I still think there's a world where Brandon's going to get hot here. I don't know. Maybe I'll die on that hill. But when it comes to Oak Grove, man, their defense is looking better and better each week, and all of a sudden, Keelan Hall, he might be Mr. 7A. So if you're going to have Mr. 7A possibly at quarterback and your defense starting to play really well with the athletes and they got a good line, Drew Causey's a line coach, that's he knows how to coach an O-line. So Oak Grove, serious. I mean, and then Petal loses. We talked about, we'll talk about that a little bit
I
later.
know
And
it.
it's like, well, like all of a sudden, Oak Grove probably still can't win the district because they lost to Petal. They're going to need Petal to lose another game, which I guess is possible now. Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah.
But they'll probably, Oak Grove's going to be the 2 seed, and they're going to have home games until the very end, until the South Finals if they get there.
Yeah, well, let's go ahead and talk about that game though. It wasn't even on our list. I didn't even consider it to be a game that that we were going to pick. Pearl and
No,
Petal.
not at all.
Yeah,
Not at all.
and Pearl wins 21-14, I do believe, over Petal. And this one was on the road at Petal. It was a shocker. Pearl getting the win, and this puts Pearl in playoff conversation because going into region play, I know I was thinking that Pearl and Meridian were on the outside looking in. But Pearl now with 2, I think they beat, they already played Meridian and beat them. So I think Pearl already has 2 region wins, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, absolutely. And can you pull this up for me? Because
Yeah,
sadly, for me, pull up Pearl's schedule real quick for me if you
yeah.
could, and just the games that they've played. First off, that score was 21-14, and Pearl absolutely dominated that game. I tuned in for a second. I'm like, I couldn't believe again. This was one of those scores where I was like, wow, is that possible? And it was, and they were just absolutely shellacking them. I don't know what happened to Petal, and were they not focused because they felt like they were playing somebody easy? You got the Pearl schedule up?
I do. So
Who
they
are their last 2 games are who?
the last two games before Petal was Meridian and Northwest Rankin. They beat Meridian, but they lost to Northwest Rankin, which that yeah,
Now that's the problem, right? Because even though they beat Pedal, the tiebreaker is the problem
that's right.
for them.
That's right.
So it has kept them alive, right? Because now Pearl, who's their last two games?
Their last
Brandon
next
and
game's
Brandon.
Brandon and Oak Grove.
They're going to have to win one of those.
Yeah, but listen,
They're gonna.
that'll be an awesome
Okay,
game to
but
talk about this
right,
week.
right.
Pearl and Brandon with the stakes that high.
What I wonder, we got to check this. If it's a three-way tie between Brandon, Northwest Rankin, and Pearl, who are the two that get in? And how funny would that be with the Rankin
Yeah,
County school districts in a three-way tie for two spots?
that yeah
How
that
would, yeah,
that'd be
how
something.
would, wouldn't that be crazy? I mean, I'm
That
kind of
would be
hoping for
crazy.
that scenario, and I'm kind of hoping for that scenario now. All of a sudden, but yeah, just
Uh,
absolutely, Pearl dominated that game. They dominated that game all four quarters. I mean, that was really impressive by them.
and this just goes to show you how football goes one way or another. Because right before region play, they had played Germantown and lost 55-0. So this is a team that looked like they were completely down and out.
Right.
But listen, back to business. All right, Pearl. Congratulations to them with the win over Petal, putting them right back in the conversation. But then our next game that was on our list, another shocker: Grenada falling to South Panola, 48-41. What a finish though, Blake. Kickoff return for a touchdown in the last 4 seconds of the ball game. I mean, Grenada put on a pretty good comeback of themselves. They were down 41-28. They tie the ball game. But then, man, South Panola, they get the win. So South Panola's right back in a 6A conversation. If they can beat Grenada, it seems like they could probably compete with anybody.
It feels like they could win the North half, although they may have to play Grenada again. But
Yeah,
2024 Grenada's here, right? I'm gonna try to do this to the camera. 2025 Grenada's here, and that doesn't mean 2025 Grenada couldn't be holding a trophy. But last year
exactly.
it felt like they were so much better than everybody else. Well, now they're not, and they have a team to win it all, but they're gonna need to play well. They can't play a B game or a C game and still win. Because we saw this earlier in the year, we were like, it's just not feeling right. It's just not feeling right. Now, obviously, I do want to caveat this. Their season, with the death of one of their players, has to just be,
Yeah,
tough on them. And I want to give them a little bit of a break when it comes to that. That case is really, disturbing. But when it comes to the football field, South Panola, I had them as my most disappointing in 6A, and here they are just ripping off win after win after win after win. And somebody said to me, and I'm not going to say who it is, LC, Lake, and I always pronounce it wrong, Cormorant or whatever,
yeah,
they have a really good team. So if Grenada thinks that they're just going to go beat that LC, I don't know.
yeah. Listen, this puts Grenada in a situation where they already have a region loss now to South Panola, so we'll see how that happens moving forward. Also with South Panola, how do they do moving forward in region play? But we're going to talk a little Madison Central and Germantown. This is a rivalry that's developing here. Germantown hosting this game. We both picked Germantown to win this game. And Germantown does win the game, but Madison Central was up late. They were up 17-14. Germantown wins 21-17. Obviously not surprised by the finish with Germantown winning. I was a little surprised that Germantown only scored 21 points. I was pretty impressed with Madison Central's defense based on that score. I don't know if you saw the game to see
Yeah.
what it looked like.
Yeah, I believe Madison took a 17-0 lead. And then
Oh,
Germantown scored. Yeah, right. So Germantown's offense was
uh,
stymied for the first part of that game, and then once they
yeah,
started clicking,
yeah,
then they started going. And once they figured out what they needed to do, then they won the game. Now Madison had a shot late, and then something, a special teams, error really cost them. However, this Germantown team, if their offense at any point in that game starts to get going, you can just call it there. That offense, I mean, is scary and it's quick and it's fast and they can put up points. I
yeah,
love this Germantown team. I really do. I really like it. And the fact that they're going to be the 2 seed because of an overtime play against Oxford, is tough. But at the same time, that that is that's a team that I think could beat Tupelo if their offense was
No,
really rocking.
yeah, no, that's what I was thinking in my own right. I'm not able to pull this up. I was trying to pull up Madison Central's. Yeah, it's not really working very well, but I was trying to pull up Madison Central and who they've played because I know that they lost to Oxford, and now they've lost to Germantown. I don't know who they played last week though.
Well, I think it's the game's going to come down to Clinton Madison for that last spot. I think.
Okay, yeah. So Madison Central's still in the battle for it, but Germantown. I mean, I agree. I fully agree with you that they are a team that could beat Tupelo on any given type
Yeah,
Friday.
I
I
wouldn't
still
pick it.
think
I wouldn't
Tupelo.
pick it. Yeah, right. I wouldn't pick it. But
Yeah,
but here's the thing. It is something that I could, if it happened, I'd be like, oh yeah, yeah. I mean, their offense went off.
yeah, yeah. So then we have Oxford and Clinton, and this was one right in Clinton. Oxford coming down to take them on. Knox Kiffin getting the start for Oxford. They go down. They go down fairly big. And at halftime, looking like they're going to drop it to Clinton. This is kind of what I was talking about last week. Clinton is full of surprises all the time. And so I almost wanted to pick them. But in the end, I'm glad I didn't because Oxford comes back and wins the ball game, 33-23 over the Clinton Arrows. What were your thoughts on that game as Oxford moves to 7-1?
Yeah, Clinton's defense was really playing well early, and then Oxford hit some big plays. Talk about Oxford and these comebacks every single week. And I guess Knox and his dad, each of them are coming back, this weekend. They were both trailing in the second half. And at some point, obviously, Knox's comeback was better because they were trailing by more than, I think Ole Miss was only
Yeah,
down one in the fourth quarter. I mean,
yeah,
what it was, just a close game. But no, I mean, look, Oxford, it's a roller coaster because like they keep winning. So how can I say anything about it? They're going to be the one seed, I think. Well, they're probably going to be the one seed. They'll definitely be the one seed. And so they have a team that's has the best path to the north half, and yet they're in every single one of these games. Like,
yeah,
well, could they lose a close game? Yeah, I mean, because the more close games you win, the more likely you're going to lose a close game because the odds are just going to shift. You can't win them
yeah,
all close, right? And at some point, it's going to flip, and you just hope it's not in the second round of the playoffs.
yeah. So Oxford wins 33-23 over Clinton. We both picked Oxford to win that game. We both had Lanier against Florence. The Lanier Bulldogs
Whoa!
taking on
Wow,
the Florence
that
Eagles.
was
Yes.
crazy.
Yeah, it was very close. Ended up being very close. Lanier had a big lead, and then Florence
What
closed
were
the
they? At?
gap.
What were they? I think they were up 28-0 at half, or 21-0 at half, and then all of a sudden Florence went on a crazy run and tied the game. And I think then Lanier scored late. Whoa! Like
Yeah, whoa.
again, I'm always correct me if I'm wrong. There's 100 games going on. I don't remember every single play of every single game here, but I'm pretty sure Lanier had like a 4 touchdown lead, and Florence ended up tying this game or was around there, and then Lanier had to score
Yeah,
to win it.
yeah. I do know that Lanier led 24-7, so it might have been 21-0. I wasn't able to keep up
Okay,
with it during the
21
game.
nothing. Still, either way. I mean,
I
they
know
were
it.
up big.
Yeah. And so 34-28 win for Lanier over Florence. Had an interview. It's on the Magnolia Shine podcast Facebook with Coach Tommy Kelly of the Lanier Bulldogs going into this game. But I know that he's wanting his guys to stay focused. He's probably glad they finished this game. But man, listen, Florence brought the threat. But Florence had just beaten Cleveland Central. So legitimate team here. Lanier 34-28.
No, it was impressive, and they continue to be impressive. However, I've already told you the foreshadow. I might actually pick Cleveland Central this week, and it may
Oh
be good for
wow.
Lanier. And by the way, and it may be good for Lanier to actually lose one before the playoffs, just to kind of get everyone reset. Because everyone's telling 833 how great they are. Sometimes that could be rat poison.
Yeah, I mean, listen, and now they'll be they're 9-0 now, and so you haven't even had any losses. Of course, listen, having games where you have some challenges and you overcome them, those are good for your team as well. So you want to be able to learn from your wins and not have to have losses to learn from here. But Lanier getting the win over Florence, and I mean, just taking a step back, we're talking about Lanier here. I mean, this is pretty awesome. This is pretty awesome what they're doing. They're really taking it to their region.
Yeah. Right, and they moved up a class this year. This
I
team was in
know it.
4A
Yeah,
last year, right? Like
yeah.
you can't. I mean, they're playing in a bigger school class now. Between you and as good as West Point is, the 5A as a whole, I like some teams. I like the Brookhavens. I like the South. I like West. But as a whole, sometimes I wonder if 4A is actually better than 5A as a whole. Like the more consistent. But
Just because of Columbia
that's for a different
and
day.
like, yeah,
That is for a
yeah,
different
yeah,
day.
yeah, yeah. Well, then we talking a little Horn Lake and Tupelo. Now Tupelo just handled this game, 38-13 win
Guys,
for
not
the
much to
Golden
say.
Wave.
Not much to say.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we can keep it moving. Okay, so Tupelo rolling to 8-1 on the year with that home win. Now we saw South Jones and Brookhaven. Now a lot of questions going into this game. Okay, South Jones was 7-1 entering the ball game. They were 7-0 before losing a winless North Pike team and losing by 16 points, 21-5, getting stomped actually by a winless team. A shocker to everyone. Didn't know what we were going to see here from South Jones. It looks like they're not trending in the right direction here. As Brookhaven wins 42-24, Brookhaven moves to 6-2, and now the Panthers look like they're looking good in their region there, as they're able to beat South Jones pretty handily.
Yeah, I South Jones played better, but now it just feels like. And then again, they beat West Jones. But then again, maybe you never know week to week, right? We're covering 100 freaking games here.
Yeah,
It's hard to keep track of who's healthy, who's not. And some wins look good, and then all of a sudden later you're like, oh, maybe it wasn't what we thought it was. Maybe West Jones was just down too much, or whatever was happening. Brookhaven to me is the best team in the South for 5A. I'm back to believe in that.
yeah,
They're impressive. I like everything that they're doing right now. I'm fully bought back in.
yeah. And I mean, if we're talking about their two losses, we're talking about barely losing to Macomb, and Macomb's been very good other than their loss to Columbia. And then you've got a loss to Northwest Rankin, which is a 7A school. You know, and
Right,
now,
right. And I think Madison's better than Northwest Rankin, but asking a 5A school to play a 7A and then a 7A again, good for Brookhaven for playing the game, but that's where sometimes depth can get you week in and week out. And why we say, okay, as good as a team is in 4A, could they beat a 7A? Sure. But could they play a 7A schedule 8 straight games? And okay, well, at some point it might catch up to you.
yeah, yeah, it might. Well, see, that's the thing with Brookhaven is that I think Brookhaven's a great team, and I think they'll be able to go far in 5A if they are able to play in a good way, and I feel like they have in the past few weeks. The Brookhaven Panthers. This is a ball game that we had on our list, but Pascagoula 42-0 over Pearl River Central. Pearl River Central, I think, is one of those teams that, in terms of their record, have benefited from playing some not so good competition. And so then when they hit that competition on the coast, it's bad. And Pascagoula
School is not
42
bad.
nothing.
Right. Their record says that they're bad. They're not bad. They're not bad.
No, no, no. But Pascagoula goes on and takes on those 7A schools on the coast. And this year is the year for the coast. I mean, we've got
Right,
multiple really good
exactly.
teams on the coast. And
Yeah.
so
And it's going to help
Pascagoula,
them. It's going to help them in the long run. It's going to help them in the long run.
it is because not only have they played up on their competition, they've also gotten better over the course of the season. Because then we saw, I think it was last week, if I'm not mistaken, they played Picayune and barely lost. When I see that,
Right.
I think Pascagoula's in a conversation in 6A. I think they're a tough out in 6A in the playoffs.
Right, right. If you're Terry, if you're West Jones, if you're
Yeah.
Hattiesburg, you don't look over there and think, oh, it's Picayune and three scrubs. You're like, we're gonna have to play against Pascagoula.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're not really interested in getting that 3 seed. And I know from being from being involved with Terry that they are definitely not looking forward to going back down to Pascagoula again another
That's a
year.
long drive. That's a long drive. That's a long way to go.
It is a long way to go. So that's Pascagoula and Pearl River Central. Then we got Ocean Springs and West Harrison. Got another beatdown. Ocean Springs hands it to West Harrison. We both picked Ocean Springs, 56-21 win for the Greyhounds. Greyhounds continue to roll. They've got that one loss to Gulfport. Other than that, they haven't skipped a beat. Ocean Springs. As far as this game is concerned, my two-part prediction, the second part was wrong. My first part, I thought Ocean Springs would win. I thought West Harrison was going to give them a little bit of a tough time, but they just didn't. Early in the game, West Harrison, I guess, but then again, early in the game, as you say, Blake, the game starts off 0-0, so, like, what are we talking about? 56-21 win for Ocean Springs.
Thank you, Trellis. That's one of my famous sayings, and I've coined it. Everyone says, well, it was close early. Well, yeah, the game started 0-0. It's not like they started at 14-0 and, oh man, it was never close. No, every game starts close. The game's 0-0. And unless it's a kickoff return or, a touchdown in the first or second play, you're going to be within one score probably halfway through the first quarter. You're going to be within a score. So, no, it was not close. It was Ocean Springs just a better team. Just a better team.
Yeah, so the Greyhounds get the win there. So that wraps up our top 10 matchups. So this week, Blake, we tied. We tied on the week. We were both 8-2.
Well, yeah, we had a lot of the same.
Yeah. We had a lot of the same. We disagreed on Cleveland Central Vicksburg. You got that one. We disagreed on Brandon Oak Grove, and I got that one. And then we were wrong, both wrong on Grenada and South Panola. So 8-2 on the week for the two of us. Oh man, I didn't add up our tally, but anyway, I'll put it up on the screen. Blake, you're a lot to a little. I'm starting to build the gap between my wins and losses though. So I don't think I'm going to be below 500 this year.
Usually I do better on my TikTok picks because, our TikTok and YouTube picks are a little bit different. Sometimes I pick some smaller school games and all that. I did not. I think I might have been 5-5 on the TikTok this week. I had.
Oh wow.
I did. I don't think I did that well. And I usually do better on that one than I do on YouTube. So this was one of the first weeks where it was flipped, where I did worse on the TikTok and better on YouTube.
I don't know if you picked this one on TikTok, but Seminary and Raleigh, that one.
I couldn't believe the Seminary was winning that game, and I thought they were going to win the game, and then Raleigh scored a couple late. But
they were winning all the way to the end. Yeah, they were winning all the way to the end. That was pretty crazy there.
Oh, and we haven't even talked about Winona.
No, we haven't. Talk about that a little bit.
So yeah. So put that up. I believe they've now, in 2 out of the last 3 weeks, beat Noxubee and Choctaw. I'm almost positive. And then again, I always apologize because, I'm trying to keep track of 300 teams, but I'm pretty sure Winona beat Choctaw and Noxubee in the last 3 weeks. And they might have lost a game in between or something weird like that. What was it?
Yeah, so they're 5-4 on the year. They just beat Choctaw. Yeah, well, okay, so they had a game in between where they played Pure Academy out of Memphis, but then the week before that they beat Noxubee 31-26.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden Winona
I know it.
beating Noxubee and Choctaw, then they are who they are. And is that the favorite of 3A in the North? Is that the favorite of 3A? Or is Noxubee and Choctaw? I don't know. I always get these confused because at one point Noxubee was playing Jefferson County in a playoff game, and I was like, I don't know. Anyways, I'm pretty sure
Noxubee, Choctaw, Winona, all in the same region. If that's what you're wondering.
Winona's going to win the region. They're going to be the 1 seed.
Yeah. So listen, that's what it's looking like. They only have one more left, and that is against Nettleton, and so
they should win that game.
And so that would be it. They'd be at that point. They would be Aberdeen. They lost to Aberdeen. I'd have to look at this whole standings here.
Yeah, but Aberdeen, I think plays. Oh man, yeah, it's a weird scenario. But I'm just saying.
Aberdeen's 2-1, and Winona's 2-1, and Noxubee's 2-1, and so.
So Choctaw's 4.
Yes. Yeah.
Unless something happens, man, Choctaw's gonna have to go on the road at a one. Oh man, Choctaw's got a wild path right now
They
because they're
do.
gonna be yeah.
Yeah, but Aberdeen plays Noxubee County this week. So listen, that region's really interesting. It's all over the place. So yeah, man, look, we had some crazy high school football. We're gonna be heading into week 10. We'll talk about that on Thursday. And but right now we're gonna move into a little bit of college football. We had us a weekend, didn't we? We had us a weekend. Getting started off, we can just talk about my Bulldogs. Blake, I think they broke me. I think they finally broke me. I don't know if I could. I say that, then next week I'll be back watching again. But the thing is that I'm just sitting here and I'm talking to my wife in the living room, okay? And I'm like, man, what's Blake going to say? What does Blake have to say on this show now? 38-21. I mean, we're killing Texas. Like, what are you going to say now?
You asked her when you were up 17, you asked her what I was going to say.
That's right. I was like, what's he going to say now? You know what I mean? And then bad things happen from there. All of a sudden, Arch Manning looked like a Heisman.
Hold on. No. Stay on there. Stay on there for a second. Stay on there for a second.
Uh-huh. Oh my goodness.
I wanted to wear my necklace.
Oh wow. That's homemade. I can tell, homemade.
Yeah,
Look, man.
I got some yarn. I poked a couple holes in it, and then I wrote on it. The only funny thing is because of the camera, right? It's actually reversed, right? Like I had to write it in Sharpie on one side, flip it over, and then trace it the other way so that it would be. It's actually backwards if you were here, actually, like looking at me. But it's kind of it's funny.
Wow. Man, look. I have a two-part opinion on this. Obviously, that was a crushing blow. Okay, being up that much and losing that game. All right, 45-38 before the season, lost to Texas. You'd be like, oh man, look, that's not bad at all. Like we're competing. This Texas.
But I've seen how the season's been played.
Of course. And we saw how this game was played. When you're up 38-21 with like 8 minutes left, you really don't need to be losing that game, and we do, Well, here's my thing with Jeff Lebby though, is that obviously there's a problem with finishing these games. He's having a tough time winning football games. He's having a tough time finishing. One thing he's very good at is preparing the guys to go play. Every single game, the guys are ready to play. We never have a bad start.
Sounds like a coordinator.
Well, I mean, look, and he's a great coordinator. Such a good coordinator that he got a head coaching job. I mean, like, so here's the thing, though. I like how the offense runs. All right, I'm a little bit more interested in – I want to see Jeff Lebby bring in another quarterback and see how that works. Like, new quarterback, I want to see another year of Jeff Lebby. If they fire Jeff Lebby, we're going to be terrible next year. Like, I just don't expect we're going to be starting back from the bottom, and I don't really want that again. You know what I mean? You like the growth that you're seeing, even though it's very much
what's
tough.
Good enough? What's good enough? But if you're a Mississippi State fan, what's good enough in the long run? 6-6? Is that your goal? Is your goal 6-6?
For this year, yes.
No. I'm not talking about this year.
You're talking in the long run,
I'm talking about in the long run. Is your goal to be year in and year out 6-6? Is that the goal of Mississippi State fans? Because I don't think it is. But I'm asking you, as a fan. No. I'm not asking for what do you want in the immediate future, but what is your goal long term as a Mississippi State fan? Is it 6-6? No, it's not. That's not the answer.
No, it's not. But
because
I'll tell
what's
you
going to happen is they're going to get to 6-6, and then what are you going to say to yourself? Oh, we should be better than that.
Yeah, we should be better than that, of course.
So your goal as a Mississippi State fan is to be consistently 8-4, 9-3.
I would totally say that. Yes. That's
right.
The goal.
That's the goal right now. Some maybe occasionally 7-5, 7-5 here, 7-5 here. Oh, and 9-3 and 8-4, right? Like a bunch of those three records,
like the Dan Mullen years. Yeah, like the Dan Mullen years, the Mike Leach years. Yeah,
and then 1 year, right? right? And 1 year you got 10, but for the most part, 9, 7, 8, 7, 9, 8, 8. Right. You got that. Okay. Close your eyes at home. Close your eyes. Can you imagine Jeff Lebby having a 5-year stretch where they average 8 wins a year?
Okay, average 8 wins a year. I don't know. I could see him getting
Then,
nine
then, then it's
wins.
over. Then it's over.
I don't know, man. Like I just feel like he's not like he's good enough for him to get another year. I just feel like he's been good enough to get
Mississippi
another year.
State. Mississippi State just hired Brian O'Connor. Did you know he's now with Tony V? I believe he's either one or number two. Highest paid college baseball coaches in the country. Mississippi State has the money to go get a $10 million coach, but they have to convince themselves it's going to work. And people say, well, we don't have that. Well, we don't have that. Well, then you're never going to pony enough money to ever have anything relevant. This is going to hurt. This is going to hurt people's minds here. James Franklin is out there. Now, it may be James Franklin may get a better job than Mississippi State. But man, if I was Mississippi State, $10 million a year, please come here. Because you know what? Close your eyes again. James Franklin is the head coach of Mississippi State. Could you imagine him winning 8 games a year for a 5-year stretch? I can't.
Yeah, I could. I mean, he's been successful, so I could. But my thing that I wonder with James Franklin is that I feel like that the Penn State label is pretty nice to have on your side. Obviously, he's a good coach, but it's kind of like Coach Day at Ohio State. Do you think he'd go to Mississippi State and win a bunch of games? I don't know.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if you could say that. Do you think Jeff Lebby would go to Ohio State and they'd be 6-6 and couldn't win any football games? Do you think that would happen? I don't think so. I think he would be a 10-win coach at Ohio State.
No. Oh, I don't think so.
Oh, what? Come on now. I don't think it's that bad, man. Man, Mississippi State has never been.
Wins and losses are a coach's stat. Quarterbacks are based off wins and losses, but to a different degree. Blake Shapen actually, for the most part of that game, actually did play well.
He was good in that game until the end. He was good until the end.
Sure. Yeah. But he had a couple receivers in the hands at the end of that game too, and made a couple throws. I felt like, right. So I actually think Blake Shapen should be pretty much excused this week. Now, he's been bad in a lot of times this year, but for the most part this week, I actually think he could kind of be excused. Wins and losses are a coach's stat. End of story.
Okay. Here's an example. All right, and I don't know how you feel about Dan Mullen as a coach. I think he's a great coach. I think Dan Mullen was a great coach.
Really good coach. Really, maybe not great, but really good.
Okay, well, see, my thing is that with Dan Mullen, I mean, the best he ever did, he had Dak Prescott, who's obviously like a top 5 quarterback in the NFL.
They were number one. They were number 1 in the country.
Yeah, but we still didn't. We still finished 10-3. I mean, the finish of that season was a letdown.
That's a great year.
It's a great 1 year. 1 year. So what I'm saying is that he was an average 8-4 coach. On average, we were 8-4 with Dan Mullen. So that's what you're talking about would be the goal. What I'm saying is that, but Dan Mullen's first years, actually his second year he was 8-4. So that is actually So the first year he was 5-7. Second year he was 8-4. You know.
Okay.
And listen, that's a good point. That's a good point.
But it was different when Dan Mullins was coaching because you had to allow whoever you hired 3 years because you had to allow their freshman class to become juniors and play a season. But now, I expect immediate results. Immediate. I do not give you more than a year and a half. That's it.
Oh.
That's all you got.
I think one more year. If you go 5-7 next year, then you got to move on. But I think you get another year, because the thing is that next year, if you bust out 8-9 wins, now we're in good way. Here's the thing: by this margin is the difference between 7-1 and 4-4 for Mississippi State this year. Texas A&M,
Sounds like a coaching problem.
But the thing is, like, where do you get credit for preparing your team to go play? Every game we start off well every game. We have not had
That's
a single game where
concerning.
we
That's
started bad.
concerning.
How's that
That's
concerning, man?
concerning.
I don't know, man. Like if your team consistently does not come out to play at the beginning of the game, that's also a coaching problem. Getting your team ready to play. You can tell that those guys play hard
Not
for their
having
coach.
your team ready for not having your team ready for 4 quarters, whether it's the beginning or the end, is not having your team ready for 4 quarters.
I mean, listen, I don't like the way Mississippi State closes games. Obviously, you know,
They
they're
blew
0-4
a
in
17.
ACC.
The game they beat Arizona State, they blew a 17-point lead. They gave up 20 unanswered
Yeah.
in the second half.
Oh yeah, it's a problem, man. It's a
That was-
problem.
by the way, them winning that game was the anomaly because the other 3 they've lost.
Turns out, yeah.
So now,
Turns out.
so now the Arizona State game is actually that's how that was the accident.
All right, man. Don't continue to rub it in, okay? Like I think I'm ready to move on. See, talking to you
Okay,
about
let's
Mississippi
move on.
State just hurts my feelings. That's the problem here. So let's talk about Ole Miss, okay? Ole Miss taking on Oklahoma. All right. And listen, Ole Miss able to bounce back from the loss to Georgia. They beat Oklahoma, but it was a good game. Oklahoma looked good too. It was a very good football game. And Ole Miss, man, they're 7-1. And, I mean, they're in the driver's seat in a lot of ways. Like, they completely control their own destiny in terms of just putting their head down and winning football games at this point because they're 7-1, and their path forward is not incredibly difficult.
Yeah, I think as long as they go 3-1 in their last 4, with one of those games being Citadel, they're in. And man, that's a party at Ole Miss. But I will say, the worst news that Ole Miss got this week is LSU firing Brian Kelly.
Okay, now let's talk about this. Okay, so this job is open now. Brian Kelly gets fired at LSU. Not a surprise to me at all. I think, to me, with Brian Kelly, I feel like it's just kind of, at some point in time, with a coach with that kind of vibe, I feel like he needs to be winning, or else the fans don't want him there. It's kind of that kind of thing.
Because, right. The losses were the one thing, right? The losses at the end of the day are what gets you fired or hired. He would have had way more leeway had he been, more submerged and nicer to people around the team.
Yeah, I think so too. Because
he would have lasted a lot. He would have lasted at the end of the year. Because if you look at it, 10 wins, 9 wins, and then the 5-3 this year. I mean, it's not good enough for their standards, right? Because they're a national championship or bust kind of program. But 9-9-10. I mean, again, if he had been nicer to people, he could have maybe got through it.
Yeah, maybe so. I think Orgeron would have made it through with those records.
Oh yeah. Well, they love him.
Because
they
love
him. But then again,
him.
he won a national championship with arguably one of the best college football teams
of
ever.
all time. I mean, that like watching the NFL every Sunday makes you know, man, that LSU team was
all
killer.
over the place, right?
That's right. But anyway, that aside, so the LSU job's open. Lane Kiffin would be a candidate for the job. At least it would be the kind of candidate LSU would be interested in.
This one's real. This one's real to me.
Man, my thing though is like, why in the world would you leave Ole Miss to go to LSU? I don't understand.
That's a top 5 job in college football.
But why? You're at Ole Miss, and you're in the SEC, which is the same conference as LSU. You have the same chance of winning the national championship in terms of if you win your games, you make it. You know what I mean? And also, the amount of pressure you have and the amount of threat to lose your job is not at the same level as it is at LSU. If Lane Kiffin has a 7-5 season, he could stay there and go back again for another year. If you have a 7-5 season at LSU, it's over with. You're done. You know what I mean? So I don't understand why you want those jobs as much as like an Ole Miss job seems like almost the perfect type of job.
Because they want the challenge. They want the challenge. That's
Lane Kiffin's been through this before.
That's like me saying I wouldn't take Fox Sports or ESPN. If they give me a call, I'm listening.
No, that's not the same at all. No, because listen,
Why?
because the thing is, like, if you here's a better example. Let's say it's like you are making almost as much money as you would on ESPN, and you're actually competing with ESPN, but then it's like ESPN offers you a job and you're like, you know what? I'll just go take the ESPN money. You probably wouldn't because you're like, you know what? I can actually take ESPN. You know what I'm saying? That's more of what I'm talking
No,
about.
no,
Oh,
this
they
no, no,
just
no, no,
beat
no.
LSU this year. Why in the world would you go coach those guys? That's what
And
I don't
okay.
understand.
Ole Miss as a state needs to change the 4-year contract for their football coaches. I understand that occasionally the buyouts are horrendous and sometimes the state has to pony up some money that is just absolutely insane. But if Ole Miss says, "Hey, Lane, our best contract is 4 years, 13 mil a year," and LSU says 8 years, 15 million a year.
Yeah, I mean, no, listen, okay. I understand the money argument for sure. I
Okay,
mean,
then that's part of it. That's part of it.
yeah. The money argument, especially if you're talking about like twice the money, I get that. But if we're talking about just straight up Ole Miss LSU, the money's like the same, and we're picking between Ole Miss and LSU. I don't know why in the world you would just go take the
if
job
they
that's less
if the
secure.
money if the money was the same, we're having a different argument. I agree.
Okay,
However, he says in that documentary, USC comes open and he was great at Tennessee. He wanted to stay at Tennessee, and then he said, "Man, what if I just always look back and I go, what if I didn't take the USC job?" Right? And I think the LSU one maybe a little bit different than USC, especially USC at that time. But man, I don't know. That's it's a
but
tough job to look at it, and they say, "Hey, here's the contract," and it's not that far away from Oxford. I guess even his son could probably still stay at Oxford. I guess if he really wanted to, but maybe I think this one's more real than any of them.
I would agree with you that it's more real than Florida. I don't really know at all why you'd want to take that. Like,
I know.
go
I think
coach a bad
the
team.
Florida one doesn't make the Florida one doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, but the thing is with Lane Kiffin that I think is different than some other coaches that are trying to climb the ladder is that this dude's already climbed the ladder. I mean, he's
Yeah,
coached at USC.
he's been fired 4 times. So
He
but
coached the
Tennessee,
Raiders. He coached the
yeah, three
Raiders.
times.
So he's been there, done that. He doesn't have anything else to prove other than to
Yeah,
win at Ole Miss. I just feel like winning at Ole Miss, and if he's the Ole Miss coach, and that's what he's known for, is that he was successful at Ole Miss, even though he went to all these places. I don't see what the knock on Lane Kiffin would be. I guess that's just my opinion on that. But
yeah,
it'd be interesting
no,
to see.
yeah.
Listen, I'm not an Ole Miss fan, but I'm sitting here making an argument for them to keep their coach. But
I
it's all
hope he
good.
stays. I hope he stays.
I hope
I'm
he
just telling
stays
you,
for
it's
the
real.
sake of Mississippi. Yeah, for sure. I would agree with that it's real. Southern Miss, man, I'm loving it. 6-2, and man, this time they just rolled over Louisiana Monroe. And I know that they were heavily favored to win, but man, they're rolling. They're rolling. Southern Miss is looking like they could win their conference. They're now bowl eligible, but they're looking for a lot more here, Blake.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the best stories in college football. And I'm getting really frustrated with some of the haters of Southern Miss right now because there's these comments that, well, he has Marshall's team. I'm sorry, who recruited these players to Marshall? It would be the one and only Charles Huff, the same coach.
Yeah, it's
And
just
the idea that no, and by the way, they didn't take all the Marshall players from last year. There's a lot of guys. I mean, Chris Jones was on Southern Miss's team last year at 1-11 as their linebacker. I mean, it's there's guys that he's recruited just for this team, and yeah, there are some guys from Marshall, but it's not the same Marshall team. No. And guys graduate, guys go to the league, guys go move on in their careers. No. What Charles Huff has done is fantastic. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if LSU, they're probably not going to, but maybe they give him a call. Maybe they give him an interview.
oh man, now listen, that I gotta say, I love Southern Miss and everything. But that's a different thing. You're at Southern Miss, you get a call from LSU. It's like, all right, what you talking about? What you talking about over there?
Yeah, it's gonna be tough to keep Charles Huff. It's gonna be tough to keep
Yeah,
Charles Huff. It's gonna be tough.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
because Michigan State, Wisconsin, like there's gonna be some schools around that
yeah,
are gonna need a coach.
yeah, for sure. This was a bummer. Jackson State dropping the game to Grambling. Okay, they lost 26-24, and now Jackson State not as in control of what happens moving forward, right? Or are they still the number one
They
seed.
still control their destiny.
They still control
Yes,
their
but
destiny.
but
Okay.
now but now but now they
Now they
can't
can't
lose
lose
and
again.
Alabama State win out. Right. Surprising. Their defense had been giving up some big plays, and it finally bit them. The offense was not enough. Just didn't have enough, and then Grambling kicks a late game field goal. Very impressive. Also, pray for that Grambling player that got hurt. That looked pretty serious. Jackson State still controls their destiny. They lost to Grambling last year and still won the Celebration Bowl, so it's all still
Yep.
right in front of them.
Yeah, for sure. So that's the Jackson State Tigers. Folks, look, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the show. The Magnolia Shine podcast here today, and we appreciate you joining us. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button, turn the notifications on. Follow us on Facebook, the Magnolia Shine podcast. We got a lot of good stuff on there. Give you little tidbits here and there. But listen, the one and only Blake Levine, alongside myself, Trellis Williams, and until next time, we out.